Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on MegaPixx Media. Joining me today is Annie Dormuth, who is Alberta Director for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Annie.
Of course.
Well, we live in interesting times, and in the government, Alberta government yesterday announced more restrictions for certain industries in the province, particularly in the restaurants and fitness and gyms. Just first of all, Annie, your thoughts overall on the latest news from the government?
Well, definitely disappointing news to a lot of small businesses who just kind of opened up their doors only a couple months ago, only to have them closed again. And really, this is round three of this, and understandably, small businesses, especially in these industries that have some of the most strict and longest lasting operating restrictions on their businesses for more than a year now, are understandably a little bit frustrated. And again, it just feeds into this sense of uncertainty of whether or not they will actually be able to get out of this and hopefully, see the end of recovery down the road here. But definitely disappointing news, especially to those businesses in the fitness and hospitality industry.
Let's talk about the hospitality industry, because that's the one that seems to get hit the hardest a lot. I see by some of your survey results, you had 57% of businesses in the hospitality industry are at risk of closure. That's, I guess that's not a surprising number, right?
Yeah, again, the hospitality industry has been the hardest hit, throughout the duration of this pandemic. They have really been the one industry that have had the most severe restrictions placed on them for the longest period of time. They were closed back in March 17th of 2020 and never really been able to open fully. They've always been under these operating restrictions, whether it be, 3 meter distancing, 2 meter distancing between tables, or going through the ebbs and flows of doing only takeout and no dine-in services. So definitely hitting that industry the hardest. And as you mentioned, they are also greatest at risk of closure. The second industry to that is the fitness or arts and recreation industries. So thinking about those indoor gyms, and as well as those bowling alleys, small business that operates a bowling alley as well. They're at 44% of at risk of closing as well. So again, very concerning numbers here. And I have to say that is why it is imperative that the provincial government steps up here and provides additional financial support to these businesses and these industries. To say that to keep these businesses under mandated operating restrictions and then to basically not provide financial assistance is really a slap in the face. We are still awaiting details of when this new grant program will be opened in April. That is the provincial government's enhanced COVID-19 business benefit. And the early details of that program are fraught with red tape issues and are really limiting, the number of businesses that will be able to apply for this. I know the Premier and as well Minister Schweitzer mentioned yesterday that perhaps an expansion of this new grant might be coming. We hope that that's soon here, because as of today, indoor fitness is now completely closed and restaurants will be closing their doors to indoor dining on Friday here. So it really needs to come quite quickly for these business owners.
So while we're on that topic, Annie, what would you like to see, or what does the CFIB want to see from government in terms of support and other measures?
Well, from the provincial government perspective, again, they need to redevelop this program. They need to remove the red tape headache of making business owners go through this weird loop of having to calculate all of their financial supports to ensure not 80% of it is covered by their revenue. They need to lower the revenue loss threshold from 60 to 30%. And they really need to look at an additional payment again for these hardest hit industries that are once again what can only probably feel like to these small businesses feel like a scapegoat in a way of closing their doors to send a message to the public to take this seriously. And yet, the province refuses to actually provide data or evidence to support this. speaking with the fitness industry in particular, if there is spread happening in their business, I know that they'd be more than willing to work with Alberta Health and the government to enhance health and safety of their business operations to, if it meant staying open. And unfortunately, again, they just never seem able to get that chance.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting numbers that I noticed in your survey results were that 28 only 28% of businesses in the province say they are at normal sales. Boy, that's obviously the hospitality and the arts and recreation industries are much lower than that, but still, like less than a third of businesses and normal sales. That's pretty telling, isn't it?
Well, and it's even more telling that we've never been above 30% on that kind of metric in the province throughout the entire pandemic. We've always kind of been between that 20 to 25 and now to that 25 to 30. I can only assume that might be going down when our new numbers come out in April here, but definitely quite concerning. Businesses are nowhere near back to making normal operations, and they won't be until we are in a position where they can operate as business as normal without any type of restrictions or operating capacity limits. And until that time comes, the province and all governments really do need to ensure that small businesses have the support they need to see it through to the other side of this. It is quite concerning situation. More so, CFIB survey results show that 70% of business owners across the country say that accessing federal and provincial support, programs is actually critical to their survival. And what that indicates is that they're very much being propped up by these programs, and they're going to have to be in place for the foreseeable future, again, until we can get back to a normal economy.
Yeah, and one last thing, Annie, how much longer can a lot of these small businesses hang on?
Well, it's been a concerning situation. I think it was just in January we had numbers that showed that 22% of Alberta small businesses were at risk of closure in January. That equated to around 34,000 small businesses across the province actively considering completely closing their doors. And we don't have newer results to show for the spring here. I can only assume that number has relatively stayed stagnant or perhaps has increased a little bit longer because we've never really had a complete easing of restrictions. And as we have seen, yesterday and coming into this week here, we now have new additional restrictions being imposed on business owners.
Okay, super. Well, thanks again, Annie, for joining us today.
Of course, anytime.
Okay, that was Annie Dormuth, who is Alberta Director of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on MegaPixx Media. Thanks for joining us today.